welcome to Widowed Too Soon. Welcome to another episode. Thanks for joining us. I am your host, Mark Massaro. I'm here with my co-host and friend, Michelle Bader. Michelle, what's happening?
Hey, well, it's been an interesting week, so I thought I would share some of the stuff that's been going on. Well, I got jury duty. So, have you ever had jury duty?
Nope. I don't
Yeah,
know why, but I've never had it.
yeah. So I thought that I was going to get out of it. There were 31 of us there, and you have to answer random questions, and they were only going to choose 13. So I'm like, no way. I don't know why they would choose me, but guess what? I was juror number one. I couldn't believe it. They called my name first. Anyways, it was an interesting experience, and I just tried to just stay in a positive place and like, okay, God, you're in charge of everything, like every little thing, and what can I learn today? So that was my interesting thing. I missed work to go to that. Let's see what else happened. I started CrossFit, like officially going.
Mm,
So that's been good. I think when you're a new widow or widower, it's important to find new things that you like.
mm.
And this is something I'd always kind of thought of. And then I saw a CrossFit gym like a half mile from my new house. And I was like, okay, I'm going to join. It's hard. It's definitely challenging. All these like people that are so strong, and I'm way behind everybody. You got to start somewhere.
It's cool. You're gonna get all buff.
I am. That's my goal. I would like to get all buff. Um, the car we talked about last week, I actually picked it up and got the new car. So that's been
Nice.
exciting to have a car again. And let's see, just a couple other little things. We started setting up our pool, which is exciting.
Oh, cool.
We have, it's kind of a thing we did with Luke. So it's a little bit emotional. We called it Lake Bader. And we set up like, the blue pools that are, 4 or
Oh,
5
the
feet
above
tall.
above ground. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So we've had one since before we had kids. Luke and I got one when we first got married. And I remember because we got it like the second summer we were together, and I was pregnant, and I would just like float in it, and he would go snorkeling in it. I have videos of him snorkeling in our little pool. Like he
That's
loved it.
awesome.
And so we've never gone one summer without a pool. The kids don't know what it's like to not have a pool. And so as we had kids and they got bigger, we would get bigger pools and bigger pools and bigger pools. And we would call it Lake Bader, like all of our friends know it as Lake Bader. So we started, I'm missing some parts, so it's not all set up yet, but that was kind of exciting.
So when he would snorkel, would he like go under you and like push you up when you
Well,
were floating?
no, I just have like a video of him going. It was like a smaller pool, so he was
Oh,
just
okay.
snorkeling by himself.
I don't. That's why I laughed, because I thought for sure you were gonna say he like went underwater and would like mess with
Oh
you
no,
or
that would be funny
something.
though. I mean, I'm sure he did at some point. And we have so many good memories in the pool. Like I can't remember what they called it, but the kids would ride on his back, and he would like go through the
Oh,
water,
nice.
when they were little, and then he would take the snorkel and then spray up water, and they thought it was funny. Oh, I have to remember what that was called, the daddy whale or the daddy something.
I was gonna say something to do with whale, probably.
Yes, it was. And it's kind of emotional, anything to do with the pool, but it's
Hmm.
happy emotions. I remember last year we set the pool up 3 days after he passed away, and it was like super emotional. But it just brings me joy. It's
That's
something
great.
that our family really enjoys. So that's one of the big things. And then my two of my kids had a choir concert, and that was good. So yeah, just
Nice.
keeping busy with just regular kind of stuff, and looking forward to 2 more weeks of my job and being off for the summer. And two of my kids get out next week, so looking forward to summer. We always do a lot of road trips and traveling. I have
Oh, cool.
a car to take places, so it's exciting. So what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I had a party for Memorial Day. That was awesome. Oh, wait,
Nice.
we had a party for Memorial Day. I'm in California. We're not supposed to do
Oh, I'm like, please. And you
that.
all wore masks, and you were all 6 feet
Oh,
apart.
totally. Yeah. We all socially distanced for sure. And yeah. No, I want to be sensitive on that, because I know a lot
Yes,
of people
yes.
have lost their spouse to COVID. And
Hmm.
I remember for us, it was a fear for a while, of course, as Lacey was very
Right.
susceptible
Same
to
with
weak immune system,
Luke.
as did Luke. But yeah, no, we had a memorial get together. It was phenomenal. It was awesome. I had a lot of good times. We played pool. I have a pool table and ping pong
Nice.
table, and kids jumped on the trampoline. And I have a movie projector in the backyard. So
Awesome.
at nighttime, I pulled down the screen, and there were like 18 kids sitting around
Whoa.
watching a movie. My daughter made popcorn, and I'm not joking
Oh.
you. Every 30 seconds, she came back in the house and asked if she could make another bag of popcorn because they already ate it all. That's how many kids there were. I'm
Oh
not
my
exaggerating.
goodness.
It was literally less than a minute that the whole bowl of popcorn was gone because the kids would all grab a
They go,
handful
yeah.
and it was gone. And so I let her make 6 bags of
Oh my
popcorn.
goodness.
And then I was like, no, that's
That's
enough. Like, that's
enough.
enough. Sorry, kids, but like, I'm not gonna let you guys just eat, popcorn throughout the whole movie because, like, I'd have to do a store run. So anyways, we
Yeah.
did that. It was a great time. I planned on cooking all this food.
Mhm.
So I cooked some food, but by the time everybody showed up with side dishes, like everybody was full. So I was like, do you guys want me to
Nice.
like make hamburgers and hot dogs? Everyone was like, no, I'm full.
Oh,
So it was a great time. We all had a
that
really good
sounds
time.
fun.
Yeah, I just kind of took a few moments and like looked around the house and just saw all these different conversations happening. There
Mhm.
was a little group over here. There was a group of people playing pool. It was just awesome. It was awesome to like look around at all the smiling faces that were,
Yes.
seeing people looking at pictures of Lacey on my wall was like a really nice moment
Yes.
for me, that people were like having conversations about her and just sharing memories of her and stuff. And that was unsolicited. That's not what the party was about, obviously. And I mean, it is Memorial Day, but that's to remember fallen soldiers and not,
Mhm.
those ones we love. But and another thing that was really cool that happened, it's like super random, but I had a really good conversation with my daughter. So she's 8,
Mm.
and she came up to me. She's a very mature 8-year-old, and she came up to me and said, so daddy, I think there's another boy that I know that would make a good husband. And I'm like, oh, okay, who's
Oh,
this?
sweet.
Now, the girl whose kid it is, they're kind of private, so I'm not going to say the boy's name, but she said, so and so is really nice to me, and he listens to everything I say, and he wants to hear all my ideas, and
Oh,
he tells everybody to be quiet so I can finish my stories. And I was like,
wow.
that's awesome. You're looking for the right thing in a man. Like, that's
Uh-huh.
awesome. But so that led into a conversation to where I got to tell her, I said, well, you got to see a very unique marriage between your mommy and I. And
Mhm.
I just opened up to her and told her about how, mommy was a lot sicker than we led them to,
Mhm.
than I let them know. And I just told her, I was really honest with her. And because she's like, do you miss mommy? And I was like, yeah, it was really hard for me. And a lot of times I hid from you guys and was crying in the bathroom and just praying to God for strength and that I could come out here and keep, because I was like, you guys wanted to climb on me like I was a jungle gym still. And I had just come out of the room like crying with your mommy. And it was hard because I was trying to balance 2 completely different emotions, and it was amazing. She was like really
Mhm.
understanding and like she like
Wow.
thanked me for working so
Oh,
hard for mommy. And
oh, so
um
sweet.
yeah, it was cool. So anyways, it was a huge blessing. It was just really nice to have that deep conversation with her because
Right.
my kids are young. I haven't had a lot of deep
Mhm.
conversations with them. And um we just told them mommy was sick. We didn't know
Right.
what to do, and so it was like nice to be honest with her and explain why. I never told her how sick mommy was,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it was just kind of, I think it was good for her and me, so that was
Right.
awesome. But anyways,
Oh,
that was my week,
special.
and just other, random stuff, nothing too big. But so today's topic, guys, we're going to be talking about navigating the negative emotions.
Mm,
Now, this is a sensitive topic
yeah.
because first of all, Michelle and I are going to give advice on this topic, but we still struggle with this ourselves
Mhm.
often. And it's
Mhm.
not the same as in the beginning, but we still struggle with a lot of these negative emotions. And negative emotions, um, regret, guilt, fear, anxiety, anger, all these things that are very normal that all of us go through, whether it's a spouse you've lost or a sibling or whomever. But these are very normal feelings. So we're going to talk a little bit about our experience with how we've handled
Mhm.
these emotions with God grace. So, Michelle, can you touch on this? Like, what are some
Mhm.
negative emotions that you've struggled with? perhaps like a story or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just something that you found God's grace in a negative emotion.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the ones that kind of surprised me, and I'm finding is pretty common with widows and widowers, is guilt.
Mm,
And the guilt that I had was about Luke and his death, and was there something I could have done to stop it? And just as a reminder, if you haven't heard the episode, he passed away from cancer, but the actual cause of death was a blood clot,
mm,
which only happens to 1% of cancer patients. So it was very rare, but it was totally a gift from God that he didn't have to suffer at the end. But he had told me for a couple days that his leg was hurting,
mm,
and we chalked it up to our hospice nurse had said, you need to be doing these leg exercises to prolong like how long you can use your leg. Well, he had one leg, he had a
mm-hmm.
prosthetic leg for
Now,
the other
was that
one.
the leg that was hurting him? The one that had the amputation?
No, it
Because he
was
was
his
amputated from the knee down, right?
below the knee. Yeah, so it was
Okay.
his calf. I should be more clear. It was his calf
Oh,
that
I'm
was
sorry.
hurting. Yeah, I didn't
Okay.
make that clear. So it was his left leg because he didn't have his right calf.
Mm.
And he had been telling me, because he'd been doing these calf exercises, and he's like, she told me to do 10, I did like 100. I'm like, of course you did. He would always go above and beyond, and
That's
like, I can
awesome.
beat this and I can do this. And he was just working really hard because she had just said, you're probably going to lose all the strength in your legs soon. And he did not want
Mm.
that. So he started doing these exercises. So that's what we both thought the reason his calf was
Yeah,
hurting.
that makes sense.
And even our last night together, it was swollen. I saw it. And
Mm.
I didn't, like looking back, I'm like, could I have done something then? And
Mm.
so I felt guilt. So they found out, I'm not going to go through the whole death thing again, but basically like something broke off from his calf and went either into his lungs when they were filled with cancer, so he couldn't survive, or into his heart.
Mm.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So I felt such guilt, like guilt I'd never felt before. Like, could I have stopped this? I
Mm.
remember sitting on my mom's lap, bawling, crying the day he died. Like, what if I could have stopped it? And she's like, you couldn't have. And then she told me this is a blessing. He didn't have to lose his strength. But at the moment it was hard to see because it was so
Yeah.
shocking. And the kids thought they would have a long time to say goodbye. And I even talked to his doctor. She called, a couple days later, and I'm like, what, like, could I have done anything? She said it didn't matter if he was in the best hospital, there's nothing, because we can't give cancer patients blood thinners because then they bleed out all their tumors.
Oh.
So she's like, we couldn't have done anything anyways, even if we knew. So there
Mm.
is absolutely nothing that you could
Mm.
have done. And so that was helpful to hear. So I really want to just like share with whoever is feeling these guilt feelings of, could I have stopped it? I've seen other people sharing it. You know what? God says our days are numbered. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, if it was your spouse's time, it was their time. And there was nothing you could have done. There's verses that talk about, actually, I'll put it in the show notes. I think it's Ecclesiastes. It talks about a time to be born, a time to die, a
Mm.
time for mourning, a time for dancing. So God has our days. Like he says, we will have a time to die, all of us. And so I just want to release you from any guilt you're feeling, because guilt is not from God, it's from the enemy.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And it was their time to go. There is nothing you could have done if that is the day that God had said it was their time. And so
Yeah.
that kind of helped me to just realize like there's nothing I could have done. And even if I could, in my situation, it would just prolong the inevitable and he would have suffered more
Mm.
if there so that really helped me just to release it. And just
Mm-hmm.
after I talked to the doctor, there's nothing I could have done. I talked to his hospice nurse, there's nothing you could have done. And then just realizing that we all have our times.
I totally get
And
it.
yeah, so that was something big for me, is going through that guilt, and then letting it go. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I've felt guilt too. Because like a lot, well, guilt and a lot of like what if questions. So
Yes.
like, Lacey opted to not do chemotherapy and do this clinical trial. And I couldn't help but wonder, like, what if she went the other
Right.
route, and even though the chances were slim, like there were chances.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've talked to so many people that, you know, and I just it begged the question, the same like you're saying, like what could I have done? Like what could I have
Yeah.
done differently? And I had this realization that I was like, God doesn't need me. God
That's
doesn't need
good.
me. God doesn't need doctors. God doesn't need medicine. If it was not her time, he would have done whatever he wanted
Right.
to save her. He would have just miraculously made her cancer gone in the next scan. And um it's hard. It's hard, you know, because you do feel guilty. And you know, I mean, there were times where I thought maybe she should go do chemotherapy because, you know, we had moments where she couldn't take the clinical trial she was doing was pills.
Hmm.
And because she had so much cancer in her stomach, which by the way, at the end, she did not have any more cancer in her stomach,
Wow.
but her whole, oh gosh, what are they called? The people,
In
the guy that
in
does the endoscopy. I can't think anyway,
yeah,
where they stick the tube.
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever
One of
that guy, the
those.
stomach doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but I don't remember. I used to know all this stuff like the back of
Right.
my hand, and I've just forgotten so much. But he pulled me to the side and was like, "I've never seen anything like this. Her entire stomach is tumors." Like, and I was
Mm.
like, "I thought she had ulcers," and he's like, "The ulcers are tumors," which I
Oh
still don't
wow.
fully understand, but. He's like, I've never
Hmm.
seen anything like this. And he explained to me the two side walls of the stomach. And he said, each wall of the stomach is completely covered in cancer.
Oh
On
wow.
her last scan, it showed there was no more cancer in the stomach,
That's
um,
amazing.
but for long periods of time, she wasn't able to take the pills, and like her cancer was so aggressive that it was like every week that went by that she wasn't taking this clinical trial medicine, like her cancer was progressing, and so I couldn't help but thinking like maybe we should do chemo, you know, maybe we should
Right.
do this, maybe we should do that, and um, it I think that God, I think that we went down the road that good because everything we did, we prayed about every single thing, every
Mm.
decision, everything. And we both felt led in
Right.
every situation. And so I did struggle with those guilt feelings too. Um, there were moments of anger and you know, anxiety. Oh my gosh, anxiety was
Mm.
crazy during, after. Like anxiety was rough for me. I'd never really experienced anxiety
Right.
before. I had panic attacks, and um I remember one night I had a panic attack so bad that Lacey asked if I wanted her to call 911, and
Mm.
I said yes, but she couldn't hear me because I was struggling for my breath so much that she didn't, she just waited it, and she was able to, she was mobile at the time, and she was able to crouch to the edge of the bed and
Mm.
pray over me and put her hand on me. And um so anxiety is a tough one too. I know a lot of
Yes, it
people feel that,
is.
but you know, in regards to guilt, there's many reasons that I've read in these widow groups that people feel guilt. Some people
Right.
feel guilt for the reasons we're mentioning. Other people feel guilt because um you know, they got with somebody else or they went on a date or something and they
Right.
feel guilt. They feel like um you know, I don't know, like they're cheating or
Right.
something. And I could understand that. I haven't, you know, I don't know. I haven't really walked down that road of like dating somebody else, but I could imagine that, you know, you would feel that way. And
Hmm.
I understand that, but you know, I just want to like say to those people that you fulfilled your covenant,
Yep.
you
That's
completed
right.
your vows, and whenever you're ready, it's okay. Like
Yep.
it's okay. And it's like, I don't know. I know my wife wouldn't want me to like be alone forever. You know, I
Right.
know she wouldn't want my kids to grow up without a mother. And when I'm ready and when that opportunity presents itself, like, you know, that'll be a bridge that I'll cross at that time. But I feel like God's given me the wisdom to know that like you have fulfilled your vows, you fulfilled your
Exactly.
covenant,
Yep.
you till death do us part. You, in God's eyes, you honored your marriage,
Yep.
and you are free. You are
Yep.
free to travel down that road when you feel like you're ready.
Hmm.
I have I have some verses to share. Um, they're just good for, I think, people going through like emotions and
Right.
But just so everybody knows, like, you're okay to feel whatever you're feeling. There's
That's
not, like,
right.
Michelle and I can't tell you how you're supposed to feel, how
Right.
you're not supposed to feel. We just want you to know from the bottom of your heart that whatever negative feelings you feel is not from God. God
That's
doesn't
right.
want you to feel fear. He doesn't want you to
Hmm.
feel anxiety. He doesn't want you to feel guilt. And so this first one I'm going to read is from First Peter chapter 5, verses, I think, 6 and 7. I'll know when I'm reading. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time.
Mm.
In due time, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And I really like that. And because it's, for one, like, we don't know God's timing. We can't
Right.
understand. Like, think about that. Like, God who spoke the universe into existence. Imagine the level of power that God has. It's
Right.
unimaginable, but just
Right.
try.
Hmm.
We are not to tell him what is right or what is wrong, or,
That is true. Hmm.
and then, but now scrolling down a little further to verse 10 in that same chapter and verse, well, whatever, you know what I mean, book and chapter, to verse 10, and the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will
Hmm.
himself restore you and make you strong,
Oh, that's
firm,
good.
and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Amen.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
good.
yeah, it's like God knows his timing and he knows what he is doing. And so, for those of you feeling those feelings, the guilt and the shame and the remorse and all these negative feelings, like, we all go through them. We all have them. And Michelle and I are not masters of this by
Hmm.
any means, but I've seen enough to know that that God doesn't want us to feel that way. You know what I mean?
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
So,
There's a verse that I wanted to share that goes along the same lines as that, about, God doesn't want us to live in this place of
mm,
despair and all those feelings. It is Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. And what that speaks to me, within this subject is, we aren't supposed to be like I see like shackles, like, all this stuff, like the guilt, the shame, the this, the that. It's just like I'm seeing like someone weighed down with all this stuff. But
mm,
Jesus has not just only saved us, which is not just only, that's huge, but he came to give us life and give us life abundantly. He doesn't want us to be weighed down. Like, it's enough that we went through this, but I see it in widows all the time, widowers, that Satan tries to keep them in this place of all of these feelings for a long time. And
mm,
it's for freedom that Christ set us free. And I just ran across this letter I wrote. Actually, I wrote it to God 1 year and 1 day ago. And I just want to share how much healing is possible in a year, from the way I felt then to how I feel now. And I just thought a lot of you could probably relate to the feelings that I was feeling. So this was 2 weeks before Luke died, June 3rd, 2020. God, I need you. I'm so sad, too sad to put into words. Like my whole world was shattered in a single moment. I mean, I knew it was coming, but not the way it was coming. I do thank you the suffering was minimal, but I don't know how to get past this pain. It's debilitating, and I'm having a hard time seeing how I will ever recover. It feels like this might take me out forever. I do know that you have a plan, but it's real hard to see it right now. I just feel pain in every direction, and I'm so lost and hurting. I hurt
mm,
for my babies as they navigate a world without daddy. I hurt for myself that I can't ever have a conversation with Luke, my husband of almost 17 years. I hurt when the kids fight and I don't have a partner to talk to about it. I hurt when I wake
mm,
up and see his things all around and he's not there. I hurt when I think of his last hour on earth and wish I could have done more to help. I hurt when I think of him straining to tell us something. I hurt when I wake. I hurt when I sleep. How in the world are you going to take this shattered heart and put it back together again? I miss his voice. I miss his laugh. I miss his smile. I feel broken beyond repair. I have never had these feelings before, where all I can see is clouds and pain, sorrow, and I can't see sun or good on the horizon. God, I really do trust you. I really do know you love me and have a plan, but why? Why did I have to become a widow? Why did Luke have to die? I need your healing touch if I'm ever going to live again. Will there ever be a day it won't hurt so bad? Will I ever feel joy again? God, please help me. Send me some comfort. Send me something to help me not drown in these treacherous waters.
Wow.
And
I
that was
relate
my,
to that so
right?
much. And let me ask you a question. Michelle now, what would you say to Michelle then?
It will get better. I mean, I would say listen to the last episode. Like,
yeah,
it will get better. You will, because it's even the stuff I talked about, how it used to be cloudy with no sun. I mean, I literally wrote that then. I would say keep pressing into God, because he is the one who will heal your heart. I mean, there's some days I am so amazed at how good we're doing. And it's not me, it's Jesus, you know, and the song that I played last week, healing. And like, I just feel like he really has changed my morning into dancing. He really has given me beauty for ashes. And I don't even recognize, I mean, I remember feeling this, but I don't feel like this at all anymore, like at all. And so the reason I read that is to encourage people that are currently feeling this. And I bet there were people going, yep, I relate to that and that and that it will get better. You know, Jesus is a healer like I've never seen before, you know, never felt before. I've never felt as close to God as I have in this widow journey.
Me too.
And you know what I mean? Like, because in the deepest pain, he comes the closest, and he mends. Like, I'm just seeing a picture of like him, like a broken heart, and he comes into all of those cracks and he heals it, and he makes you stronger than ever. Like, I definitely feel stronger than I ever was before. I mean, it's Christ in me that's strong, but I mean, just looking at this, I remember I wrote it, and the next night we had a girls' night. It was a barbecue at one of my friends' houses, and I read this to them, and then nobody knew what to say. They were just like, I'm sorry, but I was like, I just need to read this to somebody. And they just sat there and didn't know what to say. Because what would you say to that if you'd never been through that? I mean,
people
they were like,
don't. They don't know what to say.
Yeah, I think they prayed for me. Like, they didn't know what to do. And it was just so raw and real. And it feels like a distant memory. I mean, I remember it, but I don't. It's like it's like reading a story. Like, I remember it, but I don't, the feelings, I can't even relate anymore. I mean, I have, you know, I've shared with you, I had a grief moment in like a couple days, yesterday, I think it was, you know, like I have these grief moments, but they're moments. They're not days, and where I can't see the sun and I don't know how life will get better. And so just reading this gives me a new passion again for all of the listeners and all the people out there who are currently in this place. And especially people that don't have Jesus. I want them to know, I want you to know, if you're listening, you may not know Jesus yet, or maybe you do, but you want to get him to know him on a deeper level. Again, it's pressing in, it's praying, it's asking him to meet you. He meets me every day, still, every time that I pray for specific things. Like, I mean, you don't always get an immediate answer, but he just amazes me in the way that he answers things, the way he provided my house, the way he provided my car, the way that I'm healing. I mean, there's just so many things. And so I just want to, you know, encourage people that it's not going to stay like this forever. And I can also relate to anxiety. I shared some on another episode, but I had never had anxiety either. It's actually, I read a book called Anxiety, the Forgotten Stage of Grief, that it's one that isn't listed as the stage, but, you know, I had major anxiety thinking I was having a blood clot. I would have panic attacks where I was like fainting. This happened for a couple of months, and I thought I was dying all the time. And especially, so I read in the book that especially if you've witnessed a death, then you have high anxiety about dying. And so it's a real thing, you know, and then just coming to a place to release the anxiety, you know, when you get past the very beginning, and then being able to just be like, okay, God, I trust you. Like, I trust you. And, you know, releasing that. And so those are, you know, some of those emotions that I've gone through. Are there other ones that have been negative ones that you've had to navigate through?
Well, I did want to touch on, just partial response to what you were saying for people that something that helped me was like a real legit answered prayer that I can't remember the verse. You might know it. It's a real popular one, but Jesus says something to the effect of, cast your cares upon me, for my burden is easy and my yoke is light.
Yeah.
My burden is light, my yoke is easy, something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember praying to him. I was like, I'm casting my cares upon you. I'm casting my cares upon you because you said you would take them for me. And I feel like he answered that prayer. And like you were talking about God answering prayers, and it's funny, huh? Because like sometimes he'll answer your prayer, and when it's all answered, then you look back and you're like, oh, whoa, he totally answered that prayer. And but yeah, I related to so many of those things that you were reading. I remember those feelings in the beginning,
Right.
and also I totally remember like the feeling. I'm going to talk a little quieter, just so my kids don't hear me. But like
Right.
I remember I was like, well, when am I going to get cancer? When
Right.
am I going to die now?
Yeah.
Like,
Me too.
and I was so terrified that my kids were going to grow up alone and
Oh yeah.
lose both their parents. And that fear has gone away, thank God. But
Yes.
that was like the worst. That was so bad. Just like every day I was like, oh my gosh, like now I'm their only, I don't know. I was kind of like, before Lacey got cancer and everything, I was at peace with if I died or something,
Right.
and but all of a sudden it was like
Right.
solely about my kids, and like just the fear of what the rest of their life would look like if they lost me too. And
Right.
but God doesn't want us to worry about that stuff. God doesn't want us to have fears, because
That's right.
again, it goes back to that whatever happens in this life, we are going to heaven.
Yep.
We are going to live forever in heaven. And a billion years from now, we're going to, like I've said before, we're going to look back and be like, whoa, remember that time on earth?
Right.
Like, this is going to be the weird place that we like totally
Right.
forget about. Like, so it's like we worry so much about this world when in hindsight it's going to be irrelevant. Like it's like, man, I worried about so much stuff that I just didn't have to, because it's like God had it in control. God holds the whole world in his hands, right? Like that little elementary school song. But
Yeah.
I wanted to share something else. So this is one of my favorite parts of the whole Bible, is the Sermon on the Mount from Matthew chapter 5. As Michelle always says, side note,
Yep.
something I really want to do is I really want to go to Israel. And
Yeah.
I really want to be sitting on the on the Mount of Olives while somebody's preaching the Sermon on the Mount.
Oh,
I don't know
that's
why.
cool.
I
Yeah.
just always thought that would be the coolest thing, to be like, this is where Jesus spoke this,
Yeah, it would be cool.
And so it's right at the beginning. So now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted.
Yes.
Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And the last one I'm going to read is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And this goes on. And if you have not read Matthew chapter 5, I would strongly advise it. It's beautiful. It is like such a great teaching from Christ. And, so suffering is another negative emotion that we all go through. And whether it's suffering from the pain, suffering from this new life, because at moments still it's like, man, like this is tough. This is tough doing all this by myself. And it also doesn't help that I'm like a neat freak, and I that I always have to be like, my house has to be like immaculate. That doesn't help me, because that adds a lot of unnecessary pressure. I actually just realized this week, I was telling my friend Tamara, I was like, I don't know why I do this. Like I can totally get the whole house cleaned on the weekend. Like, I don't know why I like when I have such minimal time when I get home during the week, like, I don't know why I stress myself and stress my kids out probably to like
Yeah.
keep everything clean. Like, I think we just tidy up a little bit and, it's fine. But like, I'm like, I don't know who I'm doing this for. Like my kids don't care,
Right.
like, so anyways, but suffering is a common emotion that we go through. Like when you really think about that, it's like suffering. Like if you think about that word, like we are suffering in
Yeah.
many respects. And that extends to the whole family. Like my
Mhm.
in-laws, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, father-in-law, my brother, my friends, people are suffering at the loss. That's obviously not the same as it is for you and I,
Right.
and for all these widows, because it's very much a part of our lives. But so with suffering, it's again like I like to put things into perspective for myself. When I think about like, oh, I'm suffering, this is so tough or whatever, I this is hard for some people to do. This is just for me, as where this
Mhm.
works for me. I take a step back and I'm like, am I really suffering though? Like,
Mm.
is somebody driving a crown of thorns into my head and spitting on me and whipping my back with the cat and
Mm.
nine tails, and which, by the way, I'm talking about the crucifixion of Christ and the torture and torment that he went through. And like, am I really suffering though? And for me, I'm
Right.
like, no, like I will endure this. I will endure this because I'm not going through what Christ went through. And
That's a
so,
good point.
that just works for me. I'm not telling anybody that your feelings are invalid or anything like
Right.
that. I would not be foolish enough to imply that, but just a tool that works for me that might help one person out there is when I feel bad for myself or I start feeling the very real feelings that I have often. Um, I just think about Christ and what he
Mm.
went through. And I'm like, nope, I'm not suffering. This world can produce a lot more suffering than what I'm feeling right now. And at least my kids are healthy. I mean, I could
Mhm.
always find things that I'm like, well,
Right.
at least I'm not, you know, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to get into like financial stuff, but I was gonna say, at least I'm not struggling financially, whatever. I'll just put it out there. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm not like wealthy, but like, I'm not, at least I don't have that burden that I know a lot of widows have. And I feel
Right.
terrible for them. That is such a tough spot to be in. But like, there's so many things we feel, but you can still always find the good in your
That's
situation.
true.
you know
Always.
there's
Always.
always something good. There's always something that like you could say, well, at least blank.
Right.
My son's a professional at that, by the way. He's 5 years old. He's like, well, at least we didn't this or whatever. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
that's right, buddy. That's really funny.
That's so cute. No, it's true. I really like that. That's a good point to think about what Jesus went through,
Mm.
that we're not really suffering compared to that.
Right, in respects to how we could be. I mean, and there's even people on this planet today that are like, at least it's not illegal to be a Christian in
Right.
our country. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people that are listening are not from the United States, but um, actually, I noticed somebody listened from, I think it was China, but like, that's scary. Like, there
Hmm.
India, I think, no, not India. I don't know where, but anyways, the point is, there's a lot of places in the world where it is illegal to be a Christian.
Right.
Like, you can get tortured and killed for being a Christian. So it's like, again, it goes back to the like, well, at least this. And everybody has those things. Everybody has something that they can look to and grab onto to say, well, at least I have this. And if nothing else, the most powerful one that you can go to, that I've gone to many times, is, well, at least I have my salvation.
Right.
That is guaranteed. Can't
Hmm.
take it away.
Right. Right. I wanted to share, there's so many verses about suffering.
Mm,
I just found Romans 8:18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us.
mm,
That's a good one. There's so many. I keep thinking about, I don't have it in front of me, but I can look it up. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many
mm,
kinds, because you know that Things produce suffering. Not the things, I'm just quoting it loosely. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, complete
Blah
in
blah
us, blah, blah,
blah.
blah. But I often say blah, 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 but it doesn't mean that what I'm saying is not important.
Yeah, I know. I've learned that.
Yes. So anyways, that I think of that a lot, that the suffering, yes, it's not compared to other things, but it is real, it is suffering, but the suffering is what makes us who we are today,
Mm,
and able
good point.
to help other people. Like if you and I had not suffered, we wouldn't be here being able to share what God has shown us
You're right.
and help other people who are right in the midst of it. And so I like to think of that too, that suffering isn't always a bad thing. It's a good thing. Okay, so I heard it in a sermon somewhere like a couple days ago. It was an Elevation Church sermon, yeah. And they were talking about when you work out, which I'm feeling right now from my CrossFit, like my back is killing me. I'm like, ah. But anyways, what you're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you know more about this than me, is like break down the muscles, like the
Mm-hmm.
fibers, so that they
Mm-hmm.
can be built back up. And so it's
Yep.
kind of like what God allows to happen with us, break us down to build us up stronger.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
also, um, another thing is like, it doesn't matter whether, because they were talking about like if it came from God or Satan, it doesn't matter. If God allowed it, I can accept it. It doesn't matter which hands. God has to allow something in order for it to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So
Mm-hmm.
even all of us who have lost our spouses, God didn't cause that. He doesn't cause sickness and all of that, but he allowed it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, just knowing that like what we're going through, God has allowed it so I can accept it. That's a saying I said, like right in the beginning of Luke's second bout of cancer. I said it over and over and over. If God allowed it, I can accept it. If God allowed it, I can accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, just going back to breaking us down or allowing us to be broken so that we can come back stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And so did I get that right about the muscles? You're more of the
Yeah.
workout guy.
Yep. Yep.
So okay. Wasn't quite sure. But I
Yes. No, that's
feel,
a great analogy too, by the way, that's,
yeah.
and a lot of people, I don't know, I haven't shared this on here, but like, in addition to, um, going through the hell I went through with Lacey, I also didn't have the best childhood. I had a lot
Mhm.
of struggles in my life, and, it's absolutely miraculous that I'm where I'm
Right.
at today. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll get into that on another time, but, I, I went through a lot, and, but it built me into the
Yep.
man I am. It built me into
Hmm.
the person that Lacey fell in love with.
That's right.
And like, she fell in love with me because of who I was, because of where I came from. And she
Mm,
was proud of the man that I was trying to be. And I was just
right.
sharing this about her earlier with you, that,
Hmm.
she just truly loved me. And she saw me for the man that I wanted to be,
Right.
and she helped me become so much more of the man that I wanted to be. And you know, I was watching her celebration of life earlier,
Hmm.
and it was tough. It was tough
Right.
because it brought up a lot of feelings, remembering how I felt at that moment back then. And you brought up a really good point that you said, though this is probably a good thing, because as we're speaking to a lot of new widows and widowers, it might be good for you to reconnect with those feelings. And
Yeah.
I remembered a lot, and just about who she was. She was such a loving and devoted
Mm,
woman. And I get every time. So the point I'm getting at is that every time I think about her, I become overwhelmed, because I'm like, I will never meet anybody like her again.
mm,
And it's hard for me. That's hard
right.
for me, because I've told you a lot about her, and
Hmm.
she was a very unique, very special woman. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, is that I'm like, man, I don't think I know I won't meet anybody like her again. And that is like so sad to my heart. Because what we had was just so incredible and beautiful.
Right.
And just knowing that I will never have that again. That's how I feel about it right now. Talk to me in a year, I might not feel that way. God
Hmm.
can change, and God can do a lot of things, and I might love someone just as much as I did Lacey someday. I wouldn't put that out of God's hands,
Right.
or God's abilities, but I don't feel that right now. I don't
Hmm.
feel that day will come. But but I'm recording it right now so that I can
Yeah.
listen to it in a year and see if
Yep.
I'm wrong. But either way, I will always hold a special place for her in
Oh
my heart.
yeah.
But something I know that a lot of people feel that you and I have talked about this, and I know you and I don't experience this, but a lot of people get angry with God,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's a totally normal feeling because, like you mentioned a minute ago, God allows it. Well, that might make some people angry. That
Right.
might make
That's
some
true.
people really angry. Like, why would he allow this? And that's very valid. But we don't know why. We don't know why
Mhm.
God allowed it. And that's what you have to focus on. You have to focus on what you do know. But if you're mad at God, he can handle it. Tell him. Tell him how
Yep.
mad you
That's
are.
right.
Tell him how big of a jerk you think he is. Like, the main point is you're talking to him. Because if you think about it like a friendship with somebody and you're angry at somebody, well, what's better to do in a friendship? Do you just ignore that person forever and you just cut them
No.
off?
No.
And or do you talk about it with them and you tell them that what they did hurt your feelings? And
Yep.
and that's why I just encourage everybody, like, if you're mad at God, like, don't run away from him. That's
That's
not the
right.
answer, because regardless of what we believe, he's real. He's there. And like, whether you choose to turn your back on him or not, it doesn't change anything. And it's I feel like we just aren't smart enough to know. And we're not outside of time. We're not omnipotent, omnipresent, any of those attributes of God. And so we can't understand what God knows. And so yeah, just and I have another Bible verse here that I wanted to share. So this is from 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. If this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to hold the unrighteous for punishment on the day of judgment. But the main part of that was the first part was, if this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials.
Mm.
And it's true. God is such a incredible God that when you look for him and pursue him, you will find him. And I just want to encourage all of you to pray for wisdom,
Yeah.
pray for guidance, but mostly pray for wisdom, because that is something I feel is what we all need. We need God's wisdom so that we can understand why we have to suffer this, why we have to endure this. Because no matter what our spouses died from, whether it's cancer or COVID or a car accident or suicide or any of the many stories we've heard
Right.
of how someone's spouse died, a random heart attack in the middle of the night at 40 years old. Like, I've
Right.
heard a lot of stories,
Uh-huh. Me
and
too.
but we all have one thing in common, is that we lost our spouse.
Right.
And so we're all on the same road together. And even though it's different, we're on the same road together and we all need wisdom.
That's right. And I wanted to comment on something that you said when you were talking about Lacey and the future. And I heard on it's kind of like a podcast, this show the other day on Truth FM called, I think it's Beauty from Ashes. It's
Mm,
for widows. The woman in charge was interviewing a couple. One was a widow, one was a widower. And the widow explained it like, because you were talking about, you won't ever find the same love. That's true. You won't ever find the same love, but you'll find a different love. So, for example,
mm.
when you had Alexis, I'm sure you thought, I could never love a child as much as I love this child, right? I'm
Yeah,
sure
that was a
you felt
very,
it.
very private conversation that I will never tell Luke about. But yes, I had that conversation with Lacey. I was like, I just can't imagine loving another kid like
Right.
this.
Well, I think we all feel like that with our firstborn, right? Well,
uh,
then Luke came along, and guess what? Your love expanded and you love
yep.
him just as much.
Wow.
And that is what she said. She felt about her fiance, that they're engaged, that it's like it's expanding to now love him. And
Hmm.
it's not the same love. It's like a different relationship that you have with your kids. It's going to be different. And there's things that you love about them. And so for, most of us listening that are not currently married, and we're looking forward to that someday, that it's going to be a different love. And we will
Hmm.
always love our first love. It's just like your kids. You're going to love them
That's really
both.
good.
Right. I heard that and I was like, that's so good. Like, we don't love one of them more than the other and all of that, and, like you've talked about before, like, like it's going to be a special person who will be able to be okay with, it'll take a special person to be okay with, like, you have pictures of Lacey, I have pictures of Luke, you know what I mean? That is not going to be threatened by that, but that they can understand this concept, that it's not like, oh, you loved her more. And I know in the beginning, and I know that you and Lacey had a really special love and marriage. So it probably feels like that right now. But I believe that it's going to change, and you will be able to love someone differently, but as much. And that's how I feel about Luke too, is that, like, we had our own special marriage, but there will be someone that will understand that, and that the love expands. So I just thought that was a beautiful example that I just heard.
I like that.
Yes, I want to share that to encourage.
That's encouraging, because I've felt like that for a long time.
Right.
I'm just like, well, I'm probably just going to be single forever, because nobody's ever going to, I mean, she set the bar. Like, oh, I just want to curse about it. She set the bar so high, like ridiculously high. And like how, you know, like I've told people before, I'm like, no, if I do meet somebody and she comes to my house and is like not comfortable with the pictures I have of my wife all over my house, I'm gonna be like, well, sorry, but
see ya.
You know,
right.
Like, and that, anyways, but that's really
I know, I thought that was great.
a positive. I like that, because yeah, I don't know, I just I've struggled with that for a long time, and I've just come to terms with it. I haven't like moved beyond it, you know. I just say I've come to terms with it, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's gonna take this, like you like a unicorn, right? You told me about like a unicorn or whatever. It's like somebody pretty rare. So, but I don't know, I don't put anything past God, and that's why, you know, for me personally, like I'm just waiting on God, because he knows my heart, and you know. So anyways, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's encouraging.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share one more verse.
All right.
It's the last one. But this is a really good one. I think this is a good one to leave on people's minds as we duck out of here. Joshua 1, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And I don't know, I think that's the part where they were actually about to start marching around the walls of Jericho.
I think so.
But anyways, it's really powerful. I really like that. And especially the part he says, be strong and be courageous, because, you know, like I've mentioned before, like people are watching you.
Yeah.
Non-believers are watching you, and they want to see, do you really believe what you say you believe? And they won't tell you I'm watching you, but they're watching you. I guarantee it. I guarantee they're watching you, because, you know, a lot of, you know, people say like an atheist is only like that all of a sudden, like if they're crashing on a plane, they're going to be crying out to God, you know, because it's not, I don't think it's in a lot of situations, I don't think it's not believing in God. I think it's just not accepting, or not wanting to accept that there's a God. And that's something else. I have respect for all. I have friends that are atheists. I have friends, it doesn't matter. I have friends that are Muslim, Jews, Mormons, like all across the board. I have all kinds of friends. And so I'm not knocking anybody. I respect everyone's beliefs, but I really feel that as Christians, especially, because Jesus Christ is the most powerful word it's the most powerful word in any language. I mean, it just commands power, like the name Jesus Christ. And so there's something about being a Christian where people are particularly watching you.
Yes.
And I think it's because it's the truth. And so I just like to encourage people to try and pull yourself out of the funk. And I'm not telling anybody what you are or not allowed to feel. Your feelings are all valid. We've been through them all.
Yeah.
But just try for God's sake, for the testimony of Christ, to pull yourself out of the funk and represent strength in your faith. And pray to God for those things. Pray to God for wisdom. Pray to God for strength. Pray that you can be a testimony, because man, it can be a beautiful thing. It can be a really beautiful thing. So do you have anything else on this topic of navigating the negative emotions, Michelle?
I think there's other things that you can do too, reaching out to friends to help you, or especially like fellow widows who might be a little further in their journey. You could reach out to them. And then for me personally, I did some grief counseling, and that helped me. And I always put a link to Grief Share. It's a free grief program you can do through churches. That's a great thing. Or getting personal counseling. I also do that. So there's a lot of ways to help you navigate through your emotions. And I'll just say it again. If you feel it, you can heal it. Like, what we feel, we can heal. So it's okay to let yourself feel those emotions, because that is how you can move forward and be healed. And so it's not that we want you to like suppress your emotions. It's okay, like go through it, but then don't stay there. Don't stay stuck in the emotion. I think that's the important part. Like, I go through probably like 100 million emotions in one day.
That sounds about accurate.
Right. I was gonna say, if you're my friend, you know this. And it's okay. It's like okay to have, it's like not staying stuck in the negative ones. And so I don't want people to think that's what we're saying, is that you can't feel them. So definitely feel it. And seek help if you need it. Pray a lot. We've talked about that a lot, of making it a conversation, a relationship. It's not all formal. I know both you and I have got Jesus sits up with us on our way to work. You do that. Like, I used to just pray. And then when you started saying that, I started doing that. I like pat the seat, literally.
I love it.
And I'm like, Jesus, sit down. And like,
I clear a spot.
Me too. And today I was like, or yesterday, the first day I had the car, I'm like, Jesus, I got a new car. Come sit right here.
That's awesome.
I know. And
he's like, this thing's awesome.
I know. I'm like, it's not messy like the other one. It's all clean for you.
I hooked you up, daughter.
That's right. And it's just, wherever. And then I think I talked about it last week. I take walks now where I'm like not pretending he's there, but I'm visualizing that Jesus is literally walking next to me. And it's just, I get excited that we can have such an intimate personal relationship with the God of the universe, who it's like, yes, we can go to therapy, we can talk to our friends, but God is the only one who can actually has the power to do something about these immovable situations and our future and all of that. And I think I heard in a sermon, I like to listen to a lot of sermons and different things, that it was talking about, like, or maybe it was a book, like, God doesn't always give us that answer right away. It's like he wants us to trust so that we become closer to him, trust the process of what we're going through. And so if you are in that dark season, like, trust God, you will get through it. And, like we said last time, it will get better. So I guess that's, what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's awesome. So, how about you okay with me praying for us? And then you maybe talk about, like tell people about like our Instagram and where to message us and all that stuff. Because we want to hear from you guys. We'd love to, like, if you're hurting, just send us a huge email. Like, use us as your therapist. Like, not like we have answers or anything, but like, if you need to talk to someone, send us a huge email and tell us your whole story, like whatever. So I just want to encourage people in that, but I'll let you actually talk about it, but let me pray for us.
Okay. Sounds good.
Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this extremely blessed opportunity to reach out to people and just share what you have shown us. And I pray for all the people that are hurting and struggling with negative emotions, that you would strengthen them, give them courage and wisdom to know how to navigate these waters, because it is challenging for us. And I pray that you would be there and see us through as we struggle and don't have understanding and have anxiety and anger and sadness and all the emotions that you understand, that that you've felt on a greater level, a far greater level than we will ever feel. You understand the feeling of loss, betrayal, everything. And I just pray that for who's ever listening right now that needs it, Lord, that you would just touch their soul and just let them know that you're there. And if they cry out to you with anger, that you would show them grace and just fill our lives back again, Lord. I pray that you would just fill our souls with your love and your joy so that we can feel again, and that we can just have peace knowing the outcome and the final destination for all of us. And I just thank you, Lord, for your mercy and for your grace and for your love. Thank you so much for those things. And I thank you for the blood of Christ. And I pray and ask you everything in his name. Amen.
Amen. Awesome. Well, thank you. So just to
Second
wrap it,
baby.
just to wrap it up, if you want to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at widowed2 with the number 2 at widowed2soon _. Send us a message there. You can also email us, and a couple people took this up, did this last week. It's widowed2soon with the 2 widowed2soon M as in Mark and Michelle @gmail.com, and we will respond to you. And also you can send us your prayer requests, and we'll be praying throughout the week, and we will also be doing a live where we can pray for you on air. So we want to be here for you, help you build this, be part of this community that we're building. Also, if you like this, we'd love if you could rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Give a little 5 stars, and if you want to say some words about it. And again, this is not because we just need to hear how great we are. What happens, and we actually saw it this last week, is it moves us up in the ranking so that more people find us, so that more people can get healing. And so we'd love your help with that. And if you know someone who's grieving, whether they're a widow or not, we'd love it if you share this episode with them so that they can also hopefully get some hope from it. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week.
And feel free to share it. We've
Yes.
noticed, feel free to put it on Facebook. I had someone ask if it's okay. So
Yes,
feel free to share
please.
it, tell people about it. If you know anybody that's hurting and you think it might help them, just feel free. It's totally, no obligation, but feel free to share it if you'd like to.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
God
guys.
bless you
We'll see you
all.
next
Thank you.
time. Bye.
Bye.